on the YouTube. I don't get why it's not working, to be honest. But let's see. Maybe I need to just do that thing again. Sometimes it's lame like that. Oh, hopefully this works. Let me know if it works, guys. Has that worked? People saying no audio. What about now? I know there's a few seconds delay, so let's see if that's happened. In the meantime, guys, if you can retweet, reshare the space, let everybody know we're live. So people saying audio back. Working. Wait, why is it not working on mine? I can hear you now. Okay, cool. People saying it's working, even though I can't hear it. That's weird. I got a headset on this. Got audio now. Okay, brilliant. How come I can't hear it on my phone? Strange. Okay, but it's working, everyone's saying, so that's brilliant. As long as everyone else can hear it, that's the main thing. Unfortunately, guys, if you're on the YouTube, it is going to be a bit annoying to... Oh, it's coming up today. Oh, guys, it's because mine was... Oh, I'm so... But one thing is going to be annoying for you guys. And that annoying thing is going to be that you'll only be able to... Well, the blessing is you'll only be able to see me and Beatrix and maybe two of the other speakers. That's unfortunately, but you have to see Beatrix. I can't figure out how to sort this out, the display. Maybe someone's really smart on the Mac. But I've done it where the Mac's OS screen capture shows it. But I had my H1B zoom it in, and I don't know how to zoom it out, to be honest. And now H1Bs, you don't get them as good as you did in the past. They're getting too many benefits and too many rules and all this and all that. And like, you know what I mean? It's weekend and midnight here. I can't get through to him. This is the problem when you hire H1Bs. This is why we want the end of the H1Bs. Okay, let me try it live on YouTube and join the conversation. And I'm gonna retweet everybody's quote tweets, and then I'm gonna get into the news. We need so dumb. We need the news. Okay, let me retweet first, and then I'll put the YouTube out. I'm gonna retweet everyone's quote tweets, and then I'm gonna put the YouTube link out, and then we're gonna get to the news. We can't miss the news, can we? We cannot miss the news. Okay, so I'm just gonna retweet Ashkan, retweeting like a legend. Albert, poor guy. I remember getting attacked by Beatrix, and he's always one of the first ones. Always the first, actually. This time, first time, second, but Beatrix attacking him so badly. I feel so bad for that. I can't recover from that, to be honest, Beatrix. The trauma you put him through.
What are you talking about?
Poor old Albert, he's always the first one to retweet, and you were going crazy at him on the space, saying, "Oh, you never retweeted," and he's like, "But I did it the first," and you're like, "No, you need to retweet." And he's like, "But I'm always the first."
My apologies to you, Albert.
I don't think that's enough. I think he needs more than that, to be honest. Arsenal haven't recovered.
My apologies to Albert.
Okay, so we're on day 71. And I'm gonna give you guys the news. There we go. Oops. And then we'll take it from there. So that's sorted. And then I will read the chat. Actually, let me read the chat. Has anybody come out with some good ideas of how I can do it to zoom out? But there are some tech savvy people on there. Okay, so we're on day. Especially now, like, look, you can't see nothing. Let me do that. Brother, I'll go. Hope you're good. Yo, what's up with the screen, bro? Beatrix sounds really far away to hear. We zoomed in. Yeah. Did anybody figure out? No. Yeah, it looks like we've got no smart tech people. Press options, command, plus or minus. Okay, I'll do that, what you're saying. Press options, command, plus, minus. No, that's not working. What about when I right on here? Options, command, plus, minus. Nope, that didn't work either. Okay, cool. Okay, let me give the news and then we'll figure this out. I know it's annoying to see Beatrix. I apologize for that. But then it's amazing to see me. So you're getting like the good with the bad. This is life. You get good with the bad. You get the blessings and you get the curse. Night and day. Up and down, light and dark, morning and night.
It's so rude. I had my volume turned down and then I heard you say good and bad and blessings and curse, and I thought he's talking about me. I'm the blessing.
We'll let the people think about that one. Okay. Now I've got the YouTube link out and I'm just going to put it in the nest and then we're ready to go with the news. It is a bit of a shorter news day, but that being said, it's very important we're always apprised of the news. This is day 71 and we're right back here as we are every day. A little bit later than usual, but we don't miss. We're never going to miss. So there are reports that Israel is pushing for strikes on all of Iran's energy infrastructure within 24 hours. Several Arab countries are also supporting these strikes. No US-Iran peace deal is expected according to Israel. That's going to be interesting. I mean, I am with... I can't remember who we interviewed last week, but quite a few of them were saying that Trump's basically waiting for the meeting with Xi, and after the meeting with President Xi, the leader of China, it's only after that he'll make his move. He doesn't want to be in a much worse situation than he is now. At least now he can kind of blag it or whatever, and so that's why many think that he won't escalate. Okay, so earlier on today, Israel was bombing Nabatea again in South Lebanon. This is what they do consistently almost every single day. It was Russian President Putin arrived at the Moscow Victory Parade. Iran's Foreign Minister Ismail Baghai says, as I mentioned to the press, friends, look, the matter is still under investigation. We're doing our own thing. Look, we do our own work. We don't pay attention to deadlines or timing. I think he's talking about the deal. Hezbollah released more footage of taking out some more Israeli soldiers. US imposes sanctions on Chinese satellite company Changgong. Israel finally released the flotilla activists Tiago Avila and Saif Abu Kashf from detention. That illegally detained them for weeks, but it doesn't matter. They have no rules that apply to them. No rules apply to them. No laws apply to them. There is no such thing as international law when it comes to these people. The CENTCOM are claiming the U.S. naval blockade against Iran continues to be fully enforced. As of today, CENTCOM forces have redirected 58 commercial vessels and disabled 4 since April 13 to prevent the ships from entering or leaving the port. Obviously, we showed that up until whenever I wrote the article, there was only really 8 vessels that had been commandeered. Sorry, 4 or 5 had been commandeered, and 8 had been sent back, and they'd given us the names of those 8. No commercial vessels have actually passed through the Strait of Hormuz in the last 24 hours, so it's been a total blackout. Iranian President Pezeshkian said the following, quote, "Say, O people of the scripture, come to a word that is equitable between us and you, that we will not worship anyone except God, and not associate anyone with him, and not take one another as lords instead of him. But if they turn away, then say, bear witness that we are Muslims submitting to him." That was Pezeshkian's. We also saw some missiles overhead of northern Israel. It's interesting. Barak Ravid, everyone's calling him out. Everyone's calling out Barak Ravid for being the mouthpiece of Trump and the mouthpiece of Israel. And if you know Barak Ravid's history, he was part of Unit 8200, Israeli intelligence. He's like, oh, people are calling me Mossad. Ain't nobody calling you Mossad, bro. We're saying you Unit 8200 and you were Unit 8200. Anyway, everyone's calling him out because he's not only been the mouthpiece, but we know he's been manipulating the stock market. He's been manipulating the financial market. He's been manipulating the oil market. And so people have been calling him out with it. And I'll give you one guess. Yes, just one guess what his response is. He doesn't provide no evidence to debunk the claims. He doesn't deny the claims. He doesn't eloquently dispute the claims. But he says, Goive, Goive. You're a filthy anti-Semite. A filthy anti-Semite for questioning Barack Ravid's manipulation of the market. This is where we're at. And what's in addition to that is very interesting. And this is why we say there's no such thing as left wing, right wing. There's no such thing as Republicans and Democrats, because your CNN and these so-called Democrat partisan reporters who attacked the right wing, all of them came out in support of him. Then it didn't matter if you were left wing or right wing. But when it comes to banking up Israeli intelligence, they all came out in huge numbers backing him up. And it was coordinated. And shout out to the one and only Glenn Greenwald, who called them all out for what they were doing, their behaviors, their actions, and their manipulation. Okay, what else? We also had a report from the Wall Street Journal that Israel had secretly built a base in Iraq to launch attacks on Iran, and they also killed Iraqi troops from that area, but that was uncovered by Iran very early in the war. We also have footage of Iranian Marines addressing US destroyers, saying, "You go ahead and flee. Here is the cradle of the earth and the land of the Iranians. Here is the peace of Islam." Also today, in the United Kingdom, Western civilization, if you watch my debate with Rabbi Shmuley, I pointed this out, how they're destroying, desecrating, dismantling Western society from within. Well, Fiona Rose Diamond, someone who's a regular listener on this space, someone from the United Kingdom, has been arrested. And the reason they've been arrested is because they had the gall, the tenacity, the chutzpah to talk about the Holocaust on a train in the United Kingdom. And because she was talking about the Holocaust, someone complained and the police went and arrested her. She was arrested for denying the Holocaust. Just think about that. I'm in London. I got my stab vest on right now because I don't want to get stabbed. You walk down the street and there's knives everywhere. Someone's trying to jump you or stab you in London. And yet, these guys are like forgetting about the crimes, forgetting about the crimes that are happening in the UK. Instead, they're trying to hunt down people who they believe are anti-Semites. Welcome to the New World Order. Well, not really the New World Order, but this tells you who's dominating, controlling, directing society. Yeah. So shout out to Fiona. We stand with you. We believe in free speech. And she's actually a regular listener of the space as well. She's probably used to our space where we have free speech, you see. Anyway, President Putin says the conflict in Ukraine is heading towards a conclusion. The IRGC Navy made a statement and said, quote, "Any attacks on Iranian oil tankers will be responded to with attacks on US military bases." So now they've explained what the rules of engagement shall be. You hit an Iranian tanker, you try and kill it. Well, not try, you actually kill innocent civilians. The response will be that US military bases will be targeted and attacked. The commander of the IRGC Aerospace Force said, "Aerospace missiles and drones are locked onto the enemy and we are waiting for the firing command." Let me just give you some more. It was a bit of a slow news day, but as long as you're apprised of it. Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay, claims are that Russia is shipping drone components and food staples to Iran across what? Did your boy not say this a very long time ago? Through the Caspian Sea. So the US officials are saying that Russia is shipping drone components and food staples through the Caspian Sea. Per US officials, the US has zero naval presence there, as you know. Saudi Arabia has denied opening its airspace for attacks on Iran. So they're denying it. So you got a lot of misinformation. Sorry, not misinformation, but a lot of divergent, not even divergent, contradictory statements coming out about what's happening in Saudi. First we hear they didn't let them use airspace, then we heard they did. Now the Saudis are saying, "Oh no, we not do it." So we'll have to see what happens there. That's largely the news. There isn't a huge amount of news today. But let's see what the people think about it. 1 second. Okay, is Beatrix there or not?
You're always here.
Oh, flipping horse. Bit of a fright there, bro. Okay, go ahead. Give us your thoughts.
So I did read a couple of statements today, right, about Russia and China. Putin said this, are preparing to take a very serious step forward in cooperation in the gas and oil sector. And CNBC said that executives of major oil and gas companies have said,
Yeah, bro. Just a quick one, yeah. I got this all working, yeah, but the thing is, can you see the screen is zoomed in? Because you zoomed it in for me, didn't you, for the way we like it. How do you zoom out?
Yeah, why is it zoomed in like that?
Oh, it's because you did it for me. Remember when you zoomed in for the share screen or something? You zoomed in when we yeah.
Are you not on your monitors? Is that...
No, I'm in London right now, bro. Do you not know that?
Yeah.
I ran like a jungly. I just about jumped on. I was like John Wick, bro. I just jumped onto the train in seconds to go, bro. Yeah, blood. But the thing is, I'm in London and I've only got my laptop in it. I just brought my laptop, so I needed to show the screen, which is showing now, and the volume's working, everything's working. It's just it doesn't show the full screen because we've zoomed it in.
Yeah, so if you double click on the screen capture there,
Yeah.
we might need to just flick it on and off so that it just resets. So if you go on, so we've got display capture. So under display capture, the next one.
Window capture.
No. Yeah, go back. Yeah, go back to the device.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's still the same thing, bro. I tried that already.
Okay, so if you go to Google Chrome, you go to Chrome.
Yeah.
If you double click the, if you make it full screen, does it?
That one plus. Put it down to 100.
Yeah.
How much percent shall I put it to?
Is it on 100?
I'll put on 80 now.
Yeah. Put it on
100.
Actually, I don't think that's the issue. You know, 1 second.
Yeah, it's not you zoomed it. I remember. You zoomed it for me because I wanted you to zoom it for me. Do you remember?
I can't remember was it for that was for the Instagram, right?
No, that was. Do you remember when I share screen, and we had the two screens on the blue thing?
Yeah.
You remember? And the screen next to it will have to show zoomed in so we could show the video.
Yeah.
So you zoomed it in. I think that's the reason why. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought it was.
Okay, so if we go, I don't know why it's doing that though, but if you click on the source again, where it is,
Yeah.
and then there's a padlock next to it. If you just click that,
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, and then yeah, we'll just need to resize that screen basically. It basically thinks that this is like your monitor screen, so it's like zoomed in for some reason, to try and like fit it on. So we'll just need to resize that.
How do I resize it, bro?
Hey, so yeah, you know where your mouse is now.
Yeah.
If you go in the top corner,
Yeah.
yeah, and just drag it, you make it,
I
yeah,
thought,
and then pull it back, yeah, in the middle, yeah. So you just gotta keep making it smaller, and then so then it fits. Yeah, yeah. So a bit more.
is that okay?
Yeah, that should be okay, but you can resize it a little bit more.
Oh, no, too much there.
Yeah, yeah. So now just make it a little bit bigger, yeah. And it fits the screen.
That's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that should be fine.
And then we'll lock it again.
Yeah, then just lock it again, yeah. No, that should be fine.
Sorted, bro. Thanks for that.
Awesome.
Let me just make sure. Can you just check on YouTube is working?
Yeah, yeah, let me just have one second. Yeah, yeah, it looks good.
But can you hear the volume?
I can see your YouTube dashboard now, though. You're sharing your YouTube.
Yeah, but can you see the... Oh, they can hear me. They can hear our conversation, but they can't... So how can they hear our conversation but not the actual YouTube?
Love you too. So just a couple of things, right? Just on the military aspect first. I'll come on to your last
So I think you need to.
So apparently the settings are showing so they can hear our comment. Well, these radios can hear our... I'm with the H1B now, bro. So they can hear our conversation, but they can't hear the space. So maybe I need to just press this again, isn't it?
You can mute your microphone on and then.
really worrying thought. And then the third thing about that chap, I did see that comment. And I was in two minds because I'm not like Suleiman. Suleiman's really broad shouldered. I just block trolls, right? And I really thought about it. And I thought, you know what? Like, Suleiman's traveling at the moment. Okay. It's gone midnight here in the UK. He does not get paid for anything on X. He's not monetized. Not one tweet, not one post, not one space, not 1 second of it. is monetized at all. He's been demonetized from most of the other platforms. He's shadow banned on YouTube, which is why he had to open the second channel for his interviews. Now, for that guy to say stop promoting yourself, I just blocked him. He can't even listen to this space anymore because I've got zero tolerance for people like that. You know, I just think that you don't deserve to listen to this space if that's what you think is happening, that Suleiman's trying to promote himself by asking you to share the space. And that's all I'll say on that. So if his buddies are listening, they can go and tell him. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks, Empress.
And Beatrice, I'm blocking him too. I wanted to keep him up there long enough so the reprobate could see that and to share it with others to see it and to get that message out. But no, I've got to block him. I don't suffer fools. So yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys,
But
we got the
what's
YouTube
wrong?
working finally. It was really complicated. Took a lot of work. Had to get the H1B on the phone. We're sorted though now. The YouTube is working properly. So, guys, back into the news.
Can I say something to someone before? Because I think it's ridiculous that you have to defend that, oh, he doesn't get paid. He should be paid, right? Like people listen to Kansas, people listen to Tucker, people listen to Fox News, people listen to whatever. They get paid, right? And they tell you, oh, listen to us at 8 o'clock p.m. with the nightly news. What the hell is wrong with it if someone's bringing you news, right? Like we don't need to defend that he doesn't get paid, which he doesn't. But still, that shouldn't be the thing. Like, oh, he doesn't get paid, so you should lay off. He should be getting paid, right? And so I hate that argument that lay off because he's not being paid. He
Boy,
should.
Joey, you mean paid by the audience, right? Not paid by like
He should be paid by the
Israel.
platform. He should be paid by yeah, of course not by Israel, but I'm talking about
Yeah,
paid
of
by the
course, he should be
platforms.
monetized like everyone else.
You should be promoting yourself. You should be promoting yourself if this is what you do as a job. Thank you for doing it. I don't have the time to do it, so I go to his timeline to get caught up on stuff. And yes, that is the news. I prefer that news than I do Fox News, and there's nothing wrong with being paid for it. I wish you were, my friend. I wish you were.
Yeah,
Appreciate
That's
absolutely.
that,
why we
Joel.
got to get the super chats coming in.
Definitely appreciate all your comments there, guys. I really do. And yeah, I do agree. Like, honestly, like to be transparent, the only reason I'm here in London the weekend is just try and do some work so I can actually make some money off the outside the platform, because it's like there's just not enough, and really I should be. So like this weekend there's no interviews, the space is going to be a lot shorter, so it does harm the work we do, because now I'm having to look elsewhere to try and get an income. And so this is the harm it does. So that's actually the real reason I'm in London the weekend. I didn't mention it earlier, obviously I wasn't, but that's it, to get opportunities, because you as you guys know, I'm not monetized on X, and my contract before October the 7th, as you guys know, was huge. But that being said, I'm not
Wait, do you get
monetized on X.
anything,
Yep.
Suleiman? Are you able to monetize like your TikTok? Because I saw you were doing that for a little while, but I don't see
Yeah,
you
they
doing it lately.
demonetized me on TikTok as well, and I've got someone trying to look into it, but they're just struggling to get it sorted. So yeah, I'm demonetized. The only thing I'm monetized at the moment on is YouTube. That's it. Um, and I'm banned on buy me a coffee, demonetized on all the social medias. So yeah, and with X, just to let you know, like X, you saw me. I didn't stop. My habits didn't change. We continued to post. We were posting 100 posts a day, every single day, and I've been demonetized from X since 2024. It's now 2026, and I was the highest. Well, me and Mario were probably the highest played people on X before October the 7th. Just from X, never mind our own personal contracts or whatever. So yeah, anyway, I don't. Yeah, you're right. I do agree, Joe. I do think that we should, because now, I'm exhausted, coming here and then doing all these meetings, and then tomorrow, and we should be concentrating on the space and the news and interviews. And I've made sure that I've done no interviews this weekend for that reason. But we'll be back on Monday with the interviews. We got some gold. Actually, let me tell you the lineup. Blood, the lineups are golden. Monday, we've got Professor Morandi. Professor Morandi on Monday. Dimitri Lascaris and Anthony Aguilar. Tuesday, we got David Icke. We're going to interview Dr. Atusa on the handavirus. I know Beatrix has already been inquiring about the pre-jabs about that. She wants to be first on the line on the list for that. We have Professor Izadi Harrison Smith from Infowars. And then in the evening on the same day, we got loads, bro. On the evening, like at the after the space, we got Ryan Dawson, Professor Robert Pape. Remember, he was meant to come on Sunday, and he messaged me, said, "Oh, because he still teaches in university in Chicago, and he said his students were like asking him loads of questions at the end, and he couldn't he was half an hour late, and that's why. But he said this time during the evening, and I'll make sure I'm not late, and I'll make sure I'm there, and make because there won't be no students. So Professor Pape and Larry Johnson. So huge lineup just on the first 2 days. So watch out for it. It's gonna be fire. It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, appreciate your kind words, Andrew and Joa. Really appreciate it. Now let's get back into the news. Let's get into the conversation. Manko, where do you think things are? And I want to go to Manko first because I know he has a very negative view of China. I know Trump in his very first term was very, I would say, hawkish on China. Now he seems less hawkish. How do you think this meeting is going to go?
Well, Trump always wants to declare that amazing things happen, anything that he does. So the fact that he's talking to China at all means that he's going to try to come out of it with something where he can claim he did some amazing deal. I mean, the Chinese are very interested in getting certain things out of America, meaning they do not want the trade war. They want to be able to maximize their exports to the United States, and they want to be able to have influence over US policy and things like that. So I mean, China's not going to ever, this is just not within the Chinese mindset or mentality to ever make concessions or like give people wins in order to build a relationship. That's just not what the Chinese do. They look at everything as zero sum. They're playing to win. They're absolutely going to use every interaction with someone else as a way to gain advantage. And so Trump's going into this, and I think what's going to happen is what always happens between Trump and China, which is they clash, China wins, Trump declares that he won, although you look at the actual substance and the details, he didn't win because he can't win because China's never going to give him a deal that actually is going to be a win for him, which is why, like, my position on China is you shouldn't be trying to talk to them at all. You shouldn't be negotiating with them at all. It's never going to result in a win for your side. The only thing you can do is apply like your leverage and your power to them in order to get them to comply. So Trump's whole approach to China is completely wrong. And I think what China really wants, by the way, is to smooth things over with the United States as much as possible so it can still keep making money through US trade. Because if the trade war escalates against China, it's going to be very, very bad for China. And
That's crazy, bro. No audio. Just got a couple of super chats. One is from Jama, because what happened was, guys, you didn't know this on the space, but when we were sorting it out, they could hear my chat with the H1B guy, and they were like, and the audio from the space wasn't playing. So anyway, one person sent a super chat saying, for the H1B support. And Fanto says, "Oh my God, Blurred." And Mark with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it. Hopefully it's working, guys. The audio, yes, it's working. It's I realize now it's the Mac. It's the Mac that does it, because when we do it on the PC, this doesn't glitch out as much. Okay.
Tariffs on China because he was afraid of what the media says. Trump smashes and bashes and censors and throws out the media, even from the White House, if he doesn't like what they say. It's
That's not
because
what I meant, Beatrix. What
okay,
what
good.
happened is I don't it's not that the media says something and then Trump is like, "Oh, I'm going to change my mind because the New York Times doesn't like me." It's that the media was able to influence the people against him, and when he saw it wasn't as popular as he thought it was going to be, he'd immediately back down.
I think it's because China responded with its own tariffs and export restrictions, right? On rare earth
Well, I mean,
minerals and
every trade war that happens, but the issue is one of the ways that the media was able to successfully propagandize against Trump back in like 2018, 2019 is they just ran an endless barrage of stories where they would find out these like anecdotal farmers and be like, this farmer's entire life is being destroyed by the Trump's tariffs. And we know at the data level, we know in the big picture level, the farmers made out like bandits because of that trade war, because the US government, in exchange for the fact that China did these retaliations, just massively increased its subsidies for farmers. So it was like, oh, it cost them $30 billion or so. I'm making up these numbers. I don't remember the exact numbers. It cost them like $30 billion from China, but then the US government came out with like 67 billion in subsidies to counteract it. So they actually ended up profiting from it massively. But in any population where you have like hundreds of thousands, millions of different farmers, you're going to find individual situations that are outliers, that are not within the majority, that are like where you can tell a sob story or something like that. And there's an endless number of those. And so it was just endless propaganda. It was very shameful. It just shows the Democrats, if Trump declared war on hell, the New York Times would run a headline the next day praising Satan.
Aren't they already doing that?
yeah, probably. Suleiman, I've just had 2 DMs about your hot mic with your H1B. I don't know what that conversation was like, but I wish I'd heard it myself. Yeah, sorry, Cyrus,
I
over to
was
you.
just telling him, I tell the audience, I was just telling him so what happened was I had a train, and I thought the train was 20 minutes like afterwards, but it was 20 minutes earlier. So I ran and just jumped on the train before it was about to go. I was like flipping, getting in there so fast. That's basically what I was telling him, and the rest of it was he telling me how to do the tech stuff.
Cyrus, jump in. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was on the China subject. A couple points. I largely agree with what Manco said, and I'm also generally, concerned of a rising China and how that's going to interact with, the Western order in the long run. In the next, let's call it quarter century and beyond. Yeah, Trump made a very hasty and haphazard approach to this trade war. I mean, you're not going to decouple, the U.S. dependence on APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients. We get 85 to 90% of them from China. Critical products, right? That we have a hollowed out industrial base, so it's very difficult to just undo that in one presidency or two presidency. We went all in the early 2000s with globalization, and it's our greedy Western corporations that caused this. Like I'm generally for every country, right? Every country who has the capacity and industrial base to create as much of their own products as possible. It generates money for the local economy. It keeps the money in the country. So there is a fine balance. Globalization and international trade is certainly good, but there's a limit to it. So now the U.S. has an addiction, a dependence on China. So that is a real thing. And as
Well, and
Manco's,
Cyrus, there's an easy solution to a lot of the dependencies which China itself implements for its own because China has massive dependencies on imports, especially of raw materials, food, and other things. And what it does is it just does a lot of stockpiling. So the United States could solve like the vast majority, almost all of the problems with China just with stockpiling. And we've started to do that in a lot of critical areas.
I mean, stockpiling is good for, calamities and, interruptions, but you need to
No, because
replace,
no, 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 no.
you need to replace,
That's true. Like
you need
with
to replace.
oil, the volumes are so high that you cannot stockpile years of oil.
Yeah, but that's a
But with
raw
things
material.
like
I'm not talking about raw
pharmaceuticals and
materials.
rare earths, you
Right.
can, the volumes are so low, you can absolutely stockpile like a decade's worth of this stuff.
In any event, but my thesis is it took us 25 years to get to this level of dependence on China. It's going to take probably equal as amount of time to decouple ourselves from them, so we're not so dependent. I'm not saying we shouldn't do any trade with China. I'm not anti-China. I just think we need to approach that relationship very cautiously. And I think the biggest blunder of the century is alienating the Russians and us propagating this Ukraine war. That is a U.S. initiative. Both the from deposing the former government in Ukraine and putting in Zelensky from Crimea and onward. I mean, it's us that pushed Ukraine into NATO and militarized them with this very like Russophobic, antiquated Cold War mentality. Where Russia is naturally westward leaning from the Tsar days, even through the Soviet Union, even as a communist state, although they were quite fundamentalist in many ways, they're still Western-leaning peoples, and they were doing great trade. Their economy was overhauled. I mean, they're very capitalistic, and they did a lot of trade with the United States, and they enjoyed it. We had shared space missions with them, and all of a sudden we pivoted, and I I suspect it's because of the rising influence of the Zionist lobby. Because from the '90s onwards, verbally there was a lot of warm exchanges, and the theme was that there was rapprochement happening, and these countries were going to at least have lukewarm relations, not engage in pit Slavic people against each other to have a million dead, sending their young men to die on both sides. It's I mean it's a huge human tragedy of great magnitude, and equally it is a blunder, equally great of a blunder geostrategically, because we need Russia for multiple reasons so that China doesn't rise so fervently and so aggressively, because they have been on a march. So the only hope really with our blunders that we've been making, the only hope we have is their demographic issue. They have a population issue, so their growth will be curtailed by their own. It's a natural thing. It happens to everybody. So and also they just don't have the blue water navy. So as long as we have that qualitative edge, we have some buffer. But right now we're already pivoting east, probably about 15 years late. But the United States and the West, we're pivoting east. We're going to continue to support Vietnam and all those strategic states, just so that like, China doesn't feel like they have the Rome. That their objective is to be the hegemons of Asia, right? And rightfully, if they're a superpower, to their right, they're like, hey, this is my neighborhood. But as Western hegemons, for our benefit, for our selfish reasons, we don't want to see that happen. So, hence the friction. And in the school of realism, you have two different groups. You have the offensive realists like me that thinks that rising powers will always have friction, and it will lead to security conflicts, which would erupt into some kinetic warfare, right, to some level. And there's folks like Jeffrey Sachs that think, no, we can rise peacefully and do business, and everyone get along. Everything's going to be great. China has expansionist visions. They want to also, they're revanchists. They want to get back Taiwan, which is rightfully theirs. I give them full credit for wanting that. But it's just the reality that the West doesn't want that to happen. Namely, America being the leader of the pack. So, and it all ties into obviously the Persian Gulf. That's still the Western sphere. That's why China can't really do too much. They didn't send too many ships. They're quietly sitting and watching. The double blockade is hurting them, and because of the reserves that Manco mentioned, They have way more buffer than most of the countries in Asia. The real threat is to South Korea. They have a major industrial base, but before them, Thailand, Philippines. I mean, they're going to have, and people are going to be, their lives are going to be shocked. They're not going to be living normal lives. So, and that's a month down the road, 45 days down the road. So it's a real thing. Beatrix mentioned, I think 90 days for the global supply, but the shock waves will hit before that. And just I'll close on that subject for here. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Cyrus. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I get so confused by people's stances, to be honest, because um, these greedy American companies, as Cyrus put it, right? Cyrus, I would assume you're on the right. I would assume you believe in capitalism, and it's just a function of capitalism. So if you believe in capitalism, and if you're probably against the left, you think they're a bunch of radical socialists. Then you should believe in China being able to produce things cheaper and American companies going there to get goods and everything else. So it kind of goes against your whole thesis of the right.
Yeah, but if you heard in my
And
comments, I said there should be a balance. I'm not saying we shouldn't give 90% of our
yeah,
APIs that are all of our
well,
patients
the
count on
balance should be if
to
you
a foreign
believe,
country. It's just not it's not sensible.
well, then that's more socialist, right? Because then you want
That has nothing to do with
to
socialism. That's a sensitive item that is for our healthcare system. It shouldn't be beholden to a foreign state. That's sensible thinking. That's not socialism. So I don't know where you're getting that from.
It is, because then the government's getting involved in corporations
That has nothing to do with
and your
government. It would
trade.
be private American corporations like we have
Right.
now.
That's not
Producing.
capitalism. That's not free market.
That's
Right.
why
That's
we have that's
anti-capitalist.
why we have antitrust laws. That's why we have
Yes, it's
safeguards, right?
anti-capitalist.
But you
Yes,
can't
anti-capitalist.
capitalism is a very general term. You're just simplifying
And
it to capitalism and socialism. But the reality is you need safeguards. Otherwise, it's anarchy, right? But
okay, so then it's not capitalism.
that's why we have corruption laws. That we have
Yes,
antitrust
then
laws.
it's not capitalism. Just admit that then it's not capitalism.
I mean, this is a philosophical argument, and you're breaking it down to such
It's not.
basics.
Yeah,
I
it
can't.
is.
It's not a
I am
debate. I
breaking
can't
it
even
down to
enter. Because
basics.
I can't
And
even
you're not
enter that
even
debate.
letting me. You're not even letting me finish, because then on top of that, you're up here and talking about, defending people who are oppressed around the world and things like that. And I think everyone up here has done that. Well, a country like China that has 3 times the population of America should be able to flourish. Who are you to say we need to kind of stomp them down and make sure they don't grow faster than us and blah blah? You're being exactly what we fight against on this panel every night. What's that have to do with America? Why
Yeah, I
can't
mean, look,
Chinese grow the way they want to grow?
you're taking it as if I'm taking a position. This is the nature of great power
That is
politics.
exactly what you said.
You're not looking at it from an academic level. That's the issue. You're taking it
No, I
personal,
actually am looking at an
as if I'm
academic level.
cheering on us pivoting east. I'm anti-war. I just went on a dialogue
Yeah, but
about
you just said that we need to
The
stop
Russian war,
China from
and
growing.
I'm against the use of force against China, right? We need a balance so that
Okay, so how do we
I'm
do what
pro
you said?
America. I'm pro America, right? So if you have a
Okay,
problem
yes,
with
so am I.
if you have a problem, no, you're not pro America. It's very
Why am I
clear.
not pro-America?
It's
I
just
think America
by
can
all your
grow.
statements, by all your
No,
statements.
I think America
Cyrus,
can grow by
fuck
making
your
deals with other
America if
countries.
this is what your America is. Fuck your
Yeah,
country if this is what your
exactly,
country is.
because that's
If your
not
country is
American.
all about fucking supporting a genocide,
Wait,
piece of
Hoz,
shit
Hoz, we're on
Israel, fuck
YouTube. Hoz,
America.
you
I
can't,
hope the
Hoz,
American people wake the fuck
Hoz,
up real soon.
Hoz, you can't drop F-bombs. We're on YouTube. We're live on YouTube. Hoz, please, please. Say F if you really need to. Go ahead, Hoz.
Yeah, so you have to pick a side when there's huge powers in the world. I'd rather be pro my country
Sorry, I
than pro
had to lose
China
my mind a little bit. I
than
only
pro
came up
China,
here
right?
to listen to Cyrus and tell
And
me
I'm critical of my
how
government.
his great geopolitical opinion on everything is some kind of amazing thing. I bet you $1,000 or 5,000 or $10,000 that the whole of your statement about Iran and how Iran is suffering more and who's going to stop worse. Happy to spend any amount of money, put the money with Suleiman. I'll put the same amount of money in. If you're right, he can keep my money and give it to you.
About
Do you
what
want to do
exactly?
that?
About what? What's the wager? I missed it.
Can you do that?
What's the
I
wager?
can't hear him. Can anyone else hear him, or am I just talking to myself?
No, he's speaking.
You're
He's
not
speaking,
hearing him,
Hans.
Hans.
I can't hear anyone.
Hans, can you hear me?
Host, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I can hear everybody. I can hear Suleiman. I heard him
You'll
too.
have to recycle.
Yeah, he's gone down and he's come back up. I'll send him the mic.
What did he say the wager was? I missed it.
Look at Cyrus. He's so curious to know how much money is at stake. That's all I've heard you ask 5
Yeah,
times.
I
What's
don't want
wager?
to be
What's
the
wager? How
middleman
much?
with
No,
How
not the
much?
everybody
money. Not
as
the
well.
money. Not the money. The subject. I missed it. What's he trying to bet on?
I'm betting on the fact that you are talking complete and utter shite when you turn around and say Iran is going to fall before America. How's that?
When did I say Iran's
When
going
you
to fall
just turn
before
around
him?
and said Iran is
When did I say
hurting,
that?
Iran is hurting,
Can he hear
and
me or
America
not?
is going to make
I don't
sure
think
that
he can
it
hear me.
does whatever, and Iran's going to fall over. I'll tell
When
you
did I
what,
say Iran's going to
Iran,
fall
you
over?
said that when I came
What?
onto the. I was listening to your
Wait,
bullshit
we need to
about
get the
how
wax out
Iran's
of
going
your
to
ears.
suffer.
You need
Iran
to
is
get
going to
the
suffer.
yeah. If they hit infrastructure, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
if you hit infrastructure, guess what? The whole fucking world dies, mate.
I
The
said
whole
that the whole
world.
GCC, not the whole world. The
No, not the
GCC.
GCC. The whole world. You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, we'll see. So what do you want to wager?
I've told you already. You said Iran will fall
I
before
never said
America.
that. I never
Go
said
for it.
Iran's
Bet
gonna.
it.
I never said Iran's gonna fall before
What
America.
was the bullshit you were saying
Iran
before?
would
Was I
survive, but
going deaf, or
Iran would
this guy
survive, but
talking
it would look
shit?
like Syria. Iran would survive, but it would look like Syria and Gaza.
Iran will not look like Syria.
If it
Iran
goes,
will
if the
stay
world spiral,
standing.
if
Iran
the
will
war,
stay
hey,
standing,
listen,
and
read
America will
my, hey,
fall.
go read my tweets, right?
I
I'm
don't need
saying
to read your tweets.
it's
I'm
not
listening
going
to
to
your
escalate.
bullshit.
I'm saying it's not going to escalate. You have an emotional thing, and you have a
No, no,
vendetta
no, no, no,
against
no,
me.
no, no. You
You
said
have you have
Iran. Or
wax in your
you
ears,
said
bro, or your
Iran
headphones
Cyrus,
aren't
you
will
working.
haven't shut up
fall.
for 2 seconds. I shut up because you kept talking over
Because he's
me,
saying
and
nonsense.
then
He's saying
Hassan came
positions
in.
that I don't
This
have.
is
I
what I
never said
mean.
Iran. I'm
You
not going to
can't
sit here and listen
listen.
to someone
You
say that I've
cannot
said that
listen to
Iran's going to
another
fall.
opinion but your own. And then you tried to position me as being some anti-American. No, I'm very proud American. The issue is the way America has done politics for the past 50 years doesn't work anymore. China's advancing because they're making deals with other countries instead of making enemies of other countries. And I think America should be doing the same. Right?
And
That would be the
I've said those.
American way.
I've said the
Let
same words you
capitalism
just said.
win.
Hey,
I think we have
I've
I
said
think
the same thing
we
you
can
just said,
attract
though.
I think we can attract the most intelligent people in the world and create a brain drain, and you can win that way. Why? Because you have higher salaries in America. Do it on an equal playing field. Don't use your military to screw people up and take an entire region like the Middle East and screw that all up
What's
and leave them
Joe?
fighting
What's the
each other
military done
in order to
lately?
control.
Joe, what's the military done lately? What's it done now? What has it achieved?
Well, Hussein, they destabilize a lot of regions.
No, no, I'm
Uh,
talking about right now, today.
yeah, even right
Today,
now, you can't say that they're
today
not
they're done. They're
Yeah, but
done.
look, they destabilized the Middle East,
Yep.
right? You now have the GCC
All
fighting
for
against
Israel.
Iran.
All for Israel.
We can agree to disagree. I don't think it's just for Israel.
And both of you are mischaracterizing my position. First of all, I never said Iran's going to fall before the US. I've always said this will not escalate further. It's because it's mutually assured destruction. These are recorded spaces. And what Joe just said, I've been saying America's been completely doing everything wrong. We're playing to lose,
You literally just said we need to keep China down.
we're killing millions of people in the process, right?
Cyrus, you say everything like you throw
You're not
everything at
you're
the
not
wall to see
listening to
what
it.
sticks. You literally just said that we
If you
need to
go
keep
listen to
China
John
down.
Mearsheimer, or I literally like my views are very similar to his with some minor differences. I like Jeffrey Sachs. Like this is a realist worldview. I don't know what your problem is with me. I'm telling you how superpowers engage with each
I
other,
don't
and
have
you're
a problem
taking
with you. I don't know you. I have a
and
problem
you're
with your
taking and
stance
you're taking it personally, right? You're like, oh,
because you
you're a
said we need
socialist,
to
you're a
keep
capitalist,
China down. That
and
is a
Hussein is
war.
saying I'm saying
Whether it's
Iran's gonna
kinetic or
fall.
financial, that's a
I've been
war.
saying nonstop Iran is winning and they have the upper hand for weeks and on end before other people were saying it. So and if Iran was
I didn't just mention Iran.
and if Iran was losing, I'd be saying, hey, they're losing, but they're not.
Are
You
you
know,
young?
so it's just the reality of the situation. And you guys take everything so personally as if I'm like cheering on the war or
Are
cheering
you
on
in your
like
20s, Cyrus?
it doesn't matter. Like what
It does matter
it's the substance of my word, the content of my
because
message that counts. It
based on
makes
your
no difference.
photo, you don't look like you're in your 20s. And typically, people who are mature enough can actually shut off their mic and listen to other people's opinions. Insecurity, people typically can't stop talking because they don't want to get caught out as having a weak stance, so they just talk over people, which is what you're doing. So I'm assuming you're in your 20s, although your picture looked like you're in your 40s. So which one is it?
Listen, it's the substance of my message that matters, right? And yours does you're breaking it down. Oh, you're a communist, you're a socialist. This is very
No,
it's
I am.
amateur hour. I
Yes,
can't
I
even
believe
engage
in
with you on
socialism more
that.
than I
So
believe in
you continue.
capitalism.
You continue on your very rudimentary analysis. Go.
You just said it's the basics, right? And guess what's important? the basics, the foundation of everything is what's important, right? And you just said, no, I believe exactly what you said. I've been saying that for a long time. But then in the same breath earlier, you said that we need to do everything we can to keep China down. Those are opposing ideas. So I'm trying to pinpoint what you stand for. That's why I came up. I'm like, I get really confused by people because it's like these dirty, greedy businesses in America using China. That's what capitalism is, right? You go to the supplier that can get you the best quality for the cheapest price, regardless of where they are. That's capitalism, right? Then you're like, no, we have like trusts in place and this and that. Well, that's anti-capitalist, right? It's actually anti-Republican. Republican is minimum government involvement, and you're asking for the government to get involved. So that's very leftist of you, although you say you're a Republican. So that's why I said I'm so confused by your stance because it doesn't sit anywhere. It sits on both sides all the time, and you speak out of both sides of your mouth. So I'm really trying to figure out where you stand.
The capitalism that you're so proud of has led to the Federal Reserve
I just said
System.
I'm a socialist.
It's led to 40 trillion in debt, right? We had a $1 trillion surplus under Clinton, right? So our system has slowly been hijacked. We have a whole other issue, right? So like what you're talking about, like when I talk about the corruption of the corporations, these are tied into the establishment, into the deep state. There's so many layers to it. I'm for safeguards for the American people and the U.S. economy. You don't even live in America, right? If you love America so much, come live here. I've come from a military family. We've had wounded in combat. We love this country, right? So I don't know what you're talking about, and I like you're making it a personal thing against me. All I'm talking about is how
I'm
great
not
powers.
against you. I'm asking about your stance.
My stance is this: great
Stop being
powers,
a 20-year-old. I'm
great
talking
powers
about your
don't.
stance.
When you mention my age, that means that you're falling short and you're insecure because you're trying to deduce it to that level, right? So I'm not even going to entertain that. The reality is this: great powers cannot rise in peace, as we mentioned, as we
I'm
saw
sorry, Cyrus. I've
in a
just never met
bipolar,
a mature man
as
that
we
doesn't
saw
know
in the
how to
bipolar.
shut up to listen to
Now
someone else's
you're cutting me
opinion.
off. I'm trying to give you an answer, right? So we live in, as we
Beatrix, I'm
witness.
sorry I swore in your space, darling. I really am, truly. Good night. I leave you to it. And this geopolitical king of the universe you've got here. Good night. God bless.
Thank you. As we witness in a bipolar universe with the Soviet Union and the United States, they do not rise peacefully. The same thing will happen with China. It's just how human nature is. It's how great powers interact. We're in a multipolar system. Russia is in third place, but they hold a special position by virtue of land mass and other attributes, and obviously the nuclear arsenal. You don't look at this from an academic level, and you just said you're a socialist. So like you go, you do you, all right? Just don't, I'm just giving my opinion. You don't have to agree with it or anything. Just don't make it about me.
I think when I look at places like Sweden and Denmark, who have more millionaires per capita than America does, but you have more billionaires in America per capita than anywhere else. Yes, I believe that system is actually a better system. It spreads out the wealth. There's no one that really needs to be a billionaire. So yeah, I believe in socialism because it spreads things out. It takes care of it gives everyone a base. Free education, free medical. Yeah, I believe in things that are just supposed to be basic human rights, and I think every man, woman, and child should have access to.
I believe in
So
that
yes,
too. I think that could be part of a capitalistic system. I totally believe in that. I mean,
but that's
Russia's
not
doing it.
capital. What are you
Is it?
talking about? It's
It's not. It's not.
academic.
It's not so black and white, right? People, the world happens in the gray. So you're like, oh, socialist, capitalist. I mean, you're so basic, man. I can't talk to you about this. I really can't.
Oh my God. So wait, are the dirty, greedy companies that you call them, is that capitalist or is that social? What is that? Or am I just being basic non-academic while you throw, verbal diarrhea into the air?
I can't engage with you. Your worldview is so far off from the way I see the world. There's nothing to talk about between you and
You
I,
you
at
literally
least
wait
about
a minute.
China and economics, right?
Am I going nuts? You literally just said you had the same worldview a second ago and that you've been talking about it for years. And now you're saying my worldview is so
That was
far off
one
from yours.
sentence. That's one part of your worldview. The fact that the U.S. has been misplaying their hand as a superpower is evident, and we've killed millions of people in the process. There's an abundance of evidence to support that. So yeah, you're stating the obvious, but your worldview is distorted, and there's nothing to talk about. We can talk about
Okay,
Iran,
so
the Strait of
I'll
Hormuz.
ask really direct questions so you can just give it direct. Okay. Are Americans being dirty, greedy companies, like you called them, right? And we need to we need to stop them from dealing with China so that we can keep China down, okay, which is what you said. Or are we should we act more like China and actually make deals with other countries? Which one is it? Because they can't live in the same world. Those two stands.
I never use the word dirty. All companies are greedy by nature, right? All companies across the world are greedy by nature. We're a superpower. We had an industrial base. We chose to share technology. Our U.S. corporations chose to share the technology, build up China's industrial base, not only with investment, but with technology, right? That was our doing. That rapid engagement to give them everything and make them a superpower, right? Was misguided. That is not a good strategy. The Nixon meeting and the rapprochement that happened, that was very unwise to do it in that expeditious manner, right? And
But
we're paying the
they were a superpower. They
but
were a
can I
superpower.
finish? Can I
So,
finish?
well, I was
So
just going to
so
answer. I was going to interrupt before you make a new point. They were a superpower, okay, until the West got them hooked on heroin, right, illegally, and then even went to go sold to the West that they were going to go there to fight for free trade.
the
Meanwhile,
Persian
they
Empire
were
was the
going
world's
there. They
first
were going
superpower. The
there.
Greeks,
They
the
were
Romans. We're talking
going
modern
there.
times, man. You're talking about the
Can
opium
I
wars.
finish? Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
what are you
because you're
talking? What
talking
are you
about
doing?
China. You're the one moving this the measuring stick. I don't understand why. Aren't we talking about China? Why are you talking about Persia again and
No, I'm saying
Greece?
you're talking about the Chinese, like their fall during the Opium Wars and them being addicted by the UK, the British Empire did to them. That's not relevant in
Yes,
modern times. We're talking post World War II. Like
but like
we're
you
not
shouldn't have
talking the
made
same.
them a
We're not talking the
superpower.
same language, man.
We shouldn't have
If
made
you're
them.
rewinding back to antiquity, it's not relevant.
No,
You just
it
said we
is.
shouldn't
It is.
make them a
It is
superpower. They
relevant.
were a superpower.
It is
They were
We
not.
took that
exactly.
away.
A superpower exerts outside of their borders. China didn't have outposts in Africa. They owned
China at
70%.
the time,
They owned 70% of Africa. They did trade with people.
No, listen,
The
Cyrus.
definition of a
Listen, chill
superpower is
out.
far
Chill out,
different.
man.
The
Chill
definition of a
out.
superpower.
Hold on a
Hey,
second.
Ash. Hey, me and Joe were speaking, bro.
Yeah,
Like we don't
chill
need
out.
we don't need a third third
Yeah, we
brawler here.
do. We do.
Well, I'll
We
let you
do.
guys continue. You guys know what you're talking about.
Okay. All right. I wanted to ask you, Cyrus. We have 2,000 years of recorded history of humanity. And for 1,800 of those years, China has been the richest country of the world. And what Joel was talking about, the opium wars, is when that stops.
And
yes, we didn't give them.
wealth does not equate to superpower status, and especially in the modern world with the
It's not
connectivity
about
with
nothing,
you
dude.
guys look. This is too
It's
basic.
about,
I can't engage with you guys about this. This is really frustrating. Like you guys don't get
yeah,
it.
it's not about, it's not about any of that. For 2,000 years, we have recorded history. All of that, the richest place was China. And now it's going to be China again because there's so many people there. That's why. And that's just human nature of the planet.
And they were for years, Ashkan. That's the thing is
Yeah, I mean,
it
it's
was
human
stolen
nature
from
of the
them.
planet. And I don't know what
From
Cyrus
from the
is
moral
going
level,
on about.
the century of
Like
humiliation, they
he's
did China
a new
super wrong.
age
You guys are talking
He
about like
wants
from a
to go
moral
conquer
standpoint.
the world.
Who's
What are
talking
you
about
doing,
morality
Cyrus?
here?
What is your
Cyrus, can
plan?
you stop interrupting people? I'm starting to think you're actually a teenager, not even
What
20.
what are you guys talking about? Like
Can you
this is
put
not
your
about
picture instead of
Cyrus,
your
you're
what
dad's
is your
talking about
picture on your
plan,
morality. Why are
man?
you so
What
profile?
is your
obsessed with my
plan?
picture, dude? Why are you so like
What
stop
Yeah,
is
looking
your
at me? It's
because you
plan?
weird.
don't sound like you're 30 or 40 years old. You act like you're 18. I don't get it.
Hey, look, you're all you can do is make personal attacks because you sound like an
It's not
amateur.
person. It's not a
This is
personal
like high
attacks.
school
You
level.
don't.
Dude. It sounds like
You're
you
not
barely graduated
allowing
high school,
anyone else
dude.
to
Yeah,
speak,
good.
dude. You're not letting anyone speak. It's immature. I actually thought you were mature. If you are young, congrats. You're an intelligent young guy, but you're acting extremely immature when you can't let anyone else finish a thought.
This was a conversation between you and I. He jumps in, right, speaking nonsense about morality
Yes, we are on a panel.
of
That happens.
the devastation of the opium wars. Yes, the British Empire
I'm not even
was
talking about
brutal,
that. I'm
right?
talking about
That's
history,
exactly
the
what you're
human
talking about.
history
That's exactly what
for
you're talking about.
2,000 years and and who the richest people were. That's not what I'm talking. I'm not talking about the opium wars. I'm talking about the natural course of things, the natural way of the planet.
Yeah, we were pushing back on the fact that you said that we gave them the power to become a superpower. It's
We did
so
in the
not
modern
true.
in the industrial age. Yes, look at this. Look at their situation in the 1800s. They were devastated. We made them what they are post 1970, especially since the 90s and onward. We made them. We gave them access because we ruled the
Yeah,
world. So well, for
rich
right or
companies
wong,
went
for
went and
do
took
you
their
understand?
business
For
over there
it
just
doesn't
to
make it
not pay
moral.
labor here. You get
Superpowers aren't moral. You get it? Superpowers are not moral. Look at what Japan did. Look at that's how. Look at what
so
German.
okay. So
Su-
what is your solution?
There's no solution. It's going to keep going on till the end of times, man. People are going to be killing each other. That's my solution. That's how the world is.
And you're good with that. You just
I can't change it. What do you mean I'm good with it? I'm neutral to it because it's the reality of the world. It's human nature. Take away all the laws, take away all the police. What do you think your community is going to be like? They're going to be at each other's throats in a matter of
yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
Let me just read
But
the
why are
super
you
chat
so
and
angry,
I'll give
bro?
the mic right back to you, Ashkan. The
Yeah.
cool 24681, thank you for your support. He says, yes, there are superpowers. Yes, there are personal interests. How do we settle things? By giving the ruling to God, to Allah. There is no other solution for humanity. Subjective man laws will always collide. I think more. I think I don't know. There are superpowers. There are personal interests. How do we settle things? I think it's just by putting humanity first. There's no other. Oh yeah. Okay, that was a super chat. Ashkan, go ahead.
No, I was just talking to Cyrus. I mean, yes, I was just wanted to know what his solution is, and he just said it's just continued warfare. So
No, I'm saying warfare is going to be part of it, but it's just not going to be peaceful all the time. I believe in the global order. I think,
why
yeah,
though?
I
Why
think
why
China,
why
I think China should have more of a say in the global institutions. I think there's a balancing of power happening. Some of it's healthy because we've been acting so belligerent, right? So balancing happens naturally. China's going to find its place, just like Russia. These are very capable people, very smart people. They're entitled to the amount of power they can get and ascertain, and they did it, and they usually do it even if they get beat up like the opium days, because their human capital is so high value and they have resources. They're going to rise to power again. It's an ebb and flow. I'm speaking about this stuff academically, and you guys think about it that I'm cheering on people bombing each other.
Okay, so it's gonna
I
happen.
hate it. I hate it
China
as much
is
as you.
gonna
I hate it
it
as
is
much as
gonna
you,
be the
man.
richest country on earth. It is kind of already. I mean, I wish inevitable was here.
So, Cyrus, do you think we gave them a superpower because we let them steal our IP? Is that your stance? Because I saw one of the people
I
commenting
said we accelerated it. We accelerated that they were
because of
gonna
the IP.
over
Because of
time.
the IP.
It could have taken them 100 years longer. Because not only the IP, the investment flow. We gave them a bunch of stuff, and we traded with them, so it could have been measured, right? Look at the financial crisis of 2007. That's your capitalism. It needs safeguards. You can't just have a
Okay.
wild jungle, right?
Okay.
Everything needs guardrails. So that doesn't
Can
make me a
I
social.
can
That
I
doesn't make me
address
a
each
social.
one?
That doesn't make me a
Uh,
socialist to
okay.
want guardrails within capitalism.
That you want government involvement. That is a leftist position.
Yeah, I'm a
Um,
communist. You got me.
Yeah. So look about the IP, right? Um, Apple stole the IP from Xerox, who created the first graphical interface. The Apple iPhone comes from the Palm. If you don't understand that, even in U.S. companies steal each other's IP and then rework it so they can get it passed, then I don't know if you understand business, because China doesn't do anything else exactly that. It's exactly what American companies do to each other. So that argument I always is like a side of my thorn, because it happens everywhere in every country, even against each other. It
Yeah, but
happens,
those are
right?
American countries run by Americans producing it for the American
Oh,
GDP. You
so
can't
only
differentiate
Americans can steal IP. I'm sorry,
from
only
our no.
Americans
That's
can
of
steal
their
IP.
own ingenuity. What are you talking about?
Okay.
It's their idea. You don't want independence of thought. That's something you created. You want that to be just for the world to take. I mean, like, I
Oh,
don't
so
understand.
when a South African came and stole the electric car, that's he wasn't an American. Are you against that?
I don't know what you're talking. What electric car, man?
Tesla,
I'm talking about.
Tesla,
I'm talking about
Tesla. I'm talking
industrial
about Tesla.
I
espionage. I'm
think
talking
you need to
industrial
tell him who the
Tesla.
espionage.
South African is, Jonah. I think you need to tell
Tesla.
him who the South African
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's a man of
he
great
wants to ignore
character.
that.
He's a
Okay,
man of great character.
I wasn't finished, right? And then talking about investment, they didn't give them investment. They went and found cheaper workers, which is a capitalist system. I can get people to build stuff cheaper in this factory in China than I can here. It's not like they weren't like, here's some free money, China. That's not what they did. They paid for work, right? And you're trying to make it seem like we invested in China. No, you didn't. You paid people $1 a day to go sit in a factory where many people died in sweatshops building stuff, right? Not just for Nike, not just for Apple, which both of them did happen, right? It happened a lot. You didn't go and invest in China. It's not like you did them some favor, right? And you go there like you're some white knight from America, like, look at all the good we did, and all those good Americans went into China and invested. No, you didn't. You used the cheapest capital on the face of the planet in urban to make more profit. That's what capitalism is, Cyrus, and that's exactly what happened. So don't try to make it seem like you went there some like great white knight to go save China from its doom.
The Chinese paid their laborers that rate, and now they're making regular wages, and that's why China's not that competitive anymore. It's going to other places. That's just how it works. But I'm not for that. I want safeguards so that American products are made in the USA for US consumption, unless there's certain we should still trade. There should be some segments that we can outsource overseas. But I think
Welcome to the
but
left.
I think it
Welcome
should
to the left, Cyrus.
I think it should be controlled, and we should be very wary of who we deal with. And we accelerated China's rise. I'm not saying we did
Welcome
them favors.
to the left.
We certainly benefited. Why would we go invest in China if it didn't benefit American companies and the stock? It created all these millionaires and billionaires. The wealthy got super rich off of it, right? So
Welcome to the left. That's all I'm saying. You are now officially a Democrat. You want
yeah.
to get
You're the judge, the jury,
government
and the
involvement.
executioner. I got it. Sounds good.
No, there is pretty much a straight line. People who want government involvement in business and people who don't. People who do want government involvement in business are on the left. People who don't are on the right. That's really straightforward, pretty much what Democrats and Republicans are, besides guns and abortion. That's the other two.
I'm foaming at the mouth communist, man. You got me.
Got a couple of super chats. Let me read them. The first one is from the Cool, who says, when modern society took God out of politics, they boiled down everything to money. Just like when physicists took philosophy out, they believed in the metaphysical world. The two must combine. And then the user said this: I am a notorious Jonah hater. Cyrus has been so poor and articulate in his opinion that I've sided with my nemesis. Bravo.
So that means he sided with me because he's been my hater. Now he sided
Yeah,
with the enemy.
obviously.
Yeah, and do you know
But
what,
Yeah.
Jonah? It wasn't even me
that's
who
Cyrus
so
gave
didn't
that
even
funny.
get
super
it.
chat. It
That's
wasn't
so
even
Cyrus
me.
didn't even get
funny.
it.
That's
It was me.
so
I did it. That
funny.
was me.
Joe's like, that mean he sided with me?
No, because Cyrus is throwing up hearts. Like he thinks he sided with Cyrus.
No, I was being sarcastic. My tone's been sarcastic for the last 10 minutes.
That
Yeah,
sounds like a super chat that I would give, actually. It would be so painful.
but the thing is, the world operates in the gray, right? You can.
The Cyrus
I have views
got
that are
another super chat
socialistic.
against you. This one says, Elon is a great man. Ha ha
Mhm.
ha ha. Many through our history were judged by how courageous they are, and Elon was begging Epstein to come on his island. Great character. Come on, Cyrus.
I said I was being sarcastic. He's a man of great character. He's a trash character. So is his dad. I can't stand Elon Musk, and he's a terrible human being.
Disavow, disavow, disavow. Elon, if you listen to the space, I am not a part of this attack on you. I think you're an angel. I don't think you're Jewish. I don't think you went on the Auschwitz tour. I don't think you've changed the algorithm. I don't think you took away my demonetization. Disavow Cyrus completely.
There you have it. Yes, so the world operates in the gray, right? So I definitely have a lot of positions that are quote unquote socialist, like universal health care, education assistance.
Cyrus, can you just
Oh,
form a strong argument? I don't get it. The whole chat's like literally on Joe's side. It's like
I
crazy.
mean, I'm
I've
not doing
never
this
seen
for the
so much
argument.
love for Joe in my life.
That's good. He needs it. He needed it. He needed a comeback. Like the Trump
Bro, that
comeback.
was more than a comeback on the chat. That was a total ultimate victory. He was like Iran and you were like the US and he just decimated all your bases.
I mean, the thing is, you guys are part of the moral resistance, so you guys have a very humanist base, right? So you guys mistake my realism for me being callous or kind of like ruthless. I'm just explaining how superpowers
Oh no,
interact with
no,
each
Cyrus,
other.
I assure you. Listen, my position on this is like if anyone sees my analysis on debate, I don't base debates on what my opinion is. And honestly, it was issue was that when you're debating, you don't set out what your actual position is, and then let me just tell you, like you could take this as advice or not, and it's not an insult. I like you being on the space, but what you do is you don't actually state your position, and then how you are meant to debate a position. You say, look, my position is this, and now I'm going to defend this position. Unfortunately, what you do is you have kind of a whatever it sounds like what your position may be, and through the argument, it becomes very murky. And then by the end of it, no one knows what position you're actually defending. And so it's not very, when it comes to like debating, you do talk, but you don't actually debate a point. Like in this whole conversation, I actually don't know what your position that you were defending was. Whereas with Joe, I know what his position was. His position was that basically, in order, if you want government intervention, if you believe in government intervention, essentially what that means is that's a form of left-wing politics. And then he defended that position. He argued a number of different parameters within that position, and then he made you essentially concede to that position. Whereas, so I knew his position. Whereas with your position, I actually still don't know what your position is, and so that's where it is. So it's not about things being a gray area. Of course, you can have a nuanced position. I think I have a nuanced position on most issues, but I'll be able to defend that, and I will be able to set out that position and then defend it. I feel like with you, you kind of, it's like it becomes very murky because what you do is like you'll respond to the instant point that's been said without understanding what your overarching position is at the beginning.
Yeah, valid point. If I was engaging this as a debate, I mean, I started out giving a lecture. I'm like a nerdy professor, in a way. When I come up here,
Yeah,
I
this
try to
is a
give my,
panel. It's not like
and
it's
then
not. We're not.
Joe interjected, and I try to
But
understand his
that's what the
position.
space is, Cyrus.
I
It's
get
not
it.
it's not a
Of
lecture
course,
hall. It's
of
like a space. Why people love spaces is because um it's very simple. People like it because what'll happen is I'll say my opinion, you'll now say your opinion, Joel says his opinion, and there'll be a bit of engagement on that. Then there'll be some news. Obviously, people want to hear the breaking news, but in terms of engagement, people want to hear different ideas and thoughts kind of hit against each other and see like where everyone comes out.
But we've done that so many times here. I was talking about this last engagement just now. I entered the conversation. I'm talking this specific instance. We've debated all the time. There's plenty of times I'm getting cheer from the chat. Sometimes they're against me,
Exactly,
whatever.
exactly.
So,
So
but no,
you
but
get
in this
that,
case,
right? So
but Joe interjected and all of a sudden tried to make it this bifurcated road where it's black and white. Oh, you're socialist. You're a capitalist. What are you? And I was saying that's a very
I
nuanced
did.
answer.
I didn't
And I was
interject,
trying to
by the way.
explain.
Please
And I was trying to
explain to me.
explain. And by me saying that the world is in the gray, that means I have both positions. That means I have some aspects of my view that is socialistic in view, and then there's other that are very capitalistic and pro business and pro trade. And I said it up front on the front end of my conversation that hey, we should engage with China. We shouldn't make them an enemy. We should trade with them, but we shouldn't give them 90% of our APIs in critical industries that if they choose to shut off the valve, our patients and our like critical critical industries will be crippled. I don't want my country to be in that position.
Can I nail down
And
one point with you?
I think any American would agree with me. So if your chats,
Cyrus, can
out
we
in
name
Europe or somewhere, they
can
don't
we
understand my
nail
position
down
because they're not
can
here.
we nail down one point with you? Should American companies
Cyrus,
be
this is
able to go
ridiculous.
to
It's not got to
China?
do with your location. It's about understanding different systems of governance, and it has nothing to do with your location. It's just your inability to relate. It's not about being in America. I spend a huge amount of time in America. Joe is American. He's actually quite has quite a lot of heritage from the United States of America. You sound like you're an immigrant at some point. So the whole point is, and I don't think that makes a difference, but it's just that you're talking about that. So Andrew's a heritage. He's been there for many years, but these things are irrelevant. It's about whether you have a point and argument and whether the system works. Let me just read the super chat because I know Joel wants to jump in, which is Trinchilla said, I demand an answer. Who the F asked for this clown to be here? Leave the space now. That's funny. By the way, Cyrus, how Americans were those corporations when they sent their factories overseas for cheap labor and still increased their prices for US consumers? Okay, Joe, jump in.
Yeah, I mean, really, that was the thing that kind of like made me ask the question. And I didn't interject. You were done. Beatrix asked me to chime in, and I said I'm very confused by certain people's opinions. I like you on the space. I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking your position. You need to understand the difference. And just like Suleiman, I don't know your position. I listened to you talk because you are a bit long-winded. You spoke for 10 minutes, and I'm like, what did he just say? He said both things. So I'm like, are American companies allowed to, in your point of view, should they be allowed to go find cheap labor elsewhere, or should they be restricted to only building in America?
And I try to answer that in critical segments of our industry, like active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are critical to the welfare of our population. And when I said I'm an American, so it matters for me because it's our patients, it's our people that are affected. So certainly it affects me more. So I'm going to have a stronger position on it than someone in Bangladesh or in Indonesia or
Okay, but what
or in
is that?
Russia,
But what
right?
is that
Can you just
So
position?
answer the question, Cyrus? Bloody
so
hell,
that
this guy's a
so no,
headache, bro.
I answered it. Yes, we can send some factories there based on mutual benefit to us and China, but not critical industries, right? So we have to have a measured approach with China,
So is
right?
pharmaceutical critical?
Absolutely.
Okay, so all pharmaceuticals should be made in America.
Or APIs, absolutely, or in countries that are in the Western realm in our orbit.
Okay, so you don't think that our pharmaceutical prices are high enough?
I mean, that's by way of the broken system. I mean, like our whole healthcare system is broken. Our country's hijacked by super greedy, evil individuals. The overall picture doesn't change. That the whole system is screwed. That's why we engage with China the way we did. And now we're like, oh my God, what have we created? Right? Now we have a real adversary, a near peer
But
adversary.
that is my critique about capitalism, is that I love capitalism. I live like a capitalist, but if everyone was a socialist, I'd be all for it. Why? Because it breeds greed. It breeds, if I'm the only person with this drug for diabetes, bro, I can charge $20,000 a pill if I want to. Who's going to stop me? That's capitalism, right? And it is. That is capital. Pure and simple. That is capitalism. That is my problem with it, right? Is exactly that.
Because of individual abilities and our, as individuals, what we bring to society. Not everyone will. There'll never be a point in time that everyone wants to be socialist or everyone wants to be capitalist, right? It's groups form and people interact with each other and they form borders to try to work for their own mutual benefit. And to your point, Suleiman, I come from a family of immigrants. I'm born in the U.S., but I go back to what Kennedy said. It's not what your country does for you is what you do for your country. So I think if you're productive in your country and you want to work for its benefit, that's what makes you a good citizen, a good American. I feel more American than people that have been here, 10 generations that are doing detrimental stuff to the country. So for me, citizenship is not that's not your simple. That's a very ethnocentric viewpoint. Like maybe in the UK you don't feel like a true Brit, but I feel like a real American here.
No,
I don't feel.
Cyrus, I'll tell you I'll tell you why I brought it up, because you just talk so much without ever making a point. So because you were being absolutely decimated and destroyed by Joa in his argument, and I just want to welcome Simon on the stage. Hope you're doing well. Because you were being absolutely decimated and destroyed by Joa in the argument, and you had no answer. Your thing was, oh, but because I'm American, I understand it better, which is the most stupidest point you could ever make. It's very low IQ, and that's the reason you made it. So it isn't about whether you're American or not, because I'm trying to say, if you're like, oh, guess what, I'm American, so my argument should be stronger when we're talking about different systems, whether capitalism, socialism, communism, work. You being American is irrelevant, but you mention it because you think it gives you some kind of a stature to your argument, when for me it doesn't. It's about the strength of your argument. And so I was trying to say, if your argument is going to be boiled down to you're American, well, you're an immigrant, and actually Joe has been in America before. Therefore, if it's just solely based on someone being American, then Joe has more of a
And not
more of a
and
connection to the land than you do, and Andrew has more of a connection to both of them. So we could just go down that road. And I'm saying, when you to go down that road, we can even, your argument gets completely demolished. I'm saying that argument is stupid. The whole point is what Joe was able to corner you on, you got absolutely decimated on, and so that's why you have to fall back to that point. Joe, what are you gonna say?
Suleiman,
No,
do you drink
just
water,
one point.
Suleiman?
Huh?
Suleiman,
Well,
do you drink water, Suleiman?
Yeah, bro, I drink a lot of
Yeah.
water.
Okay. Or does that make you an expert in water?
Definitely
brilliant,
not, bro.
brilliant argument.
There's a
Hey,
lot
Suleiman, to your point,
Exactly,
Suleiman.
because this is what happens when people make that argument. Like,
Joe, one moment. Here,
oh,
hold on, let me clarify what Suleiman said. It's
have you ever been
misframed.
to Israel? Oh, I'm
Hey,
more American than you are
Joe,
American.
one moment. Luckily, this is a recorded space, right?
Yeah,
So
luckily it is. Trust me, that's
if you
not
go
good for you, Joe.
so Suleiman,
As
if
in
you go
Cyrus, that's not good for you that this
no,
space
but
is
listen, but
recorded, because
if you go back to
people
what
are
I
hearing
said,
your arguments, And
if you
all
go,
people need to do with your argument is listen to the start of when you speak, listen to like 3 minutes in when you speak, listen to 6 minutes in, and then listen to 10 minutes in, and each one of the 4 points is contradictory within one another. So yes, I'm glad it's a recorded space. We record the spaces for that reason. People are and then able to go back and actually this is a consistent point. All I'm asking you is rather than revert to something which is lame ass, which I don't really respect at all, make a cognizant argument. I want you to debate Joe.
but
I
I'm trying to
actually
address that
enjoy
point, an
I
American
actually
point. You
enjoy these arguments if it's
You,
based on structure.
you
But
for
still
sure.
haven't
Joe,
even
No,
you
but
answered. Do you
introduced
hold
one
believe
on,
American
hold on, Joe. One
introduced
moment.
capitalism?
one
I want
for
to
an
answer
hour
one.
and a half, and I still don't know what your position is.
I want to answer one critical point.
Go
I
on.
mentioned with specific, like I was very specific on multiple times about the
You never are
APIs,
specific. Trust
critical
me.
industry. So as an American, when my pharmaceuticals are beholden to a foreign state, that means I have a dog in the fight. It doesn't make me more credible or the evidence any more or less. That means it affects my country, not your country. So I have a stronger stance on it. Verbatim, I said that. So you can make that as I'm using my American identity as some kind of superior ground on my debate. That's not what I'm
No, you didn't.
purporting
You
at
got
all.
listen. You got decimated on the debate. That wasn't the issue.
That
The
sounds
whole
good.
point
Cool.
is
When
no,
you
but
win
the whole
some, you
point is,
lose some.
Cyrus. Even that argument doesn't make sense because again, as someone who, for example, I don't know how many family members you've got, but for example, Andrew may have more family members, or Joe may. That means he's got more of a connection to America, and therefore he's got more of a stake in the game. The whole point is this: that we're not asking you about whether you're American or not. I don't really care. We're asking you, or what Joe was trying to debate you on was the specific position on whether a socialist system works, whether a communist system works, whether a capitalist system works, and where you failed was because basically Joe trapped you because he essentially made you concede in certain position points and then said, okay, that's a left wing position. And so I'm just basing it on the conversation that I had between you two, and kind of Joe did a really good job, and that was the issue. And then for you, but like, then your response was, oh, but I've got more stake in the game. It's like it doesn't matter if you got stake in the game. The whole point is whose system works matter, irrespective of emotions or not, or connections or what. Which system makes more work, which system makes more sense, and how is it going to be cognizant or workable? That's basically what it was. Do you have any last comments before we go to Simon? Because I'm getting bored of this conversation now. Joe?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, there's things that happen. Simon, not Simon. Sorry, Suleiman. For the past 2 days, I've kind of been going down this UFO rabbit hole thing, and why all this is happening, like the disclosure and the movies coming out, the documentary coming out, the government's coming out with stuff, and I'm like, what? And all these scientists are missing that were kind of working in that field, and what's going on? And I've come to the conclusion that the American government was giving the technology to companies so companies can work on it. That way, it didn't need to be disclosed to the public, right? So the American government's giving stuff to the companies. The companies don't then go and get stuff done in other countries to make it cheaper. And this is why the system doesn't work. And then, in order to enforce things, we go and spread violence in order to destabilize regions. And I don't think that works, right? That's all. It's as simple as that. And that, my friend, is a capitalist system. It is a, hey, best man wins. That's what capitalism is. There is no safe nets. There is no safety guards. There is no free medical. There is no free education. There's no free anything. It's you work for what you get, and that's all it is, right? And that system, I don't think works when you need to enforce it through violence. And I don't think you could do it any other way. And if you don't enforce it through violence, then you're going to do what you just said, which is not capitalism. It's we need to put in safeguards. We need to make sure that certain companies with certain industries have to produce in America. That's not capitalist. That's socialist, right? So which one is it? Like you can't have both. You can't have one foot in capitalism, one foot in socialism.
Why
You
not?
have kind of have
Why
to
can't
choose
you? Why
because
can't you?
that
Why can't
doesn't
you do it nuanced?
exist. That
Yeah, it
doesn't
does.
exist. No, it
Look at
doesn't.
Russia's doing it. China's doing it. What are you talking about? I mean, I'm telling you, like
China
that. That's
is
why this
state
is that's why
controlled.
you think I lost the debate
Look,
because we're not talking about the
but
same thing. We don't look at the world the
Cyrus,
same way,
you're going to
so
Yeah,
we
tell
but
me
can never
China's
debate each other.
capitalist?
you don't get to wear the capitalist hat
China,
and get all the branding of saying I'm an American, I'm a capitalist, but everything you're saying is
yeah,
anti-capitalist.
China is state-controlled capitalism. That has actually shown to work, but that's state-controlled capitalism, which is as
Yeah, so
close
that's
to
both,
socialism as
right?
it
That's
gets.
both. So you're
No,
saying
it's
it
not
doesn't exist
both.
anywhere? Oh, you're
It's
right, Joe.
called
You want?
state-controlled
I'm gonna make it.
capitalism.
I'm gonna make a belt. I'm like a one of those UFC belts. You're the champion. I'll send it to Dubai, and you can wear it anytime you want.
But Cyrus, the thing is, in state-controlled capitalism, you don't need a president for 4 years. You need a president for decades. Do you understand? For it to work, that's the difference. Because then you can't invest in things that you need in order to succeed because you're being judged every 4 years, right? I don't think America is ready for that, and I don't think Americans want that.
As Suleiman said, I got smashed, obliterated, destroyed. I'm done. I can't. I mean, it's over, man. Your belt is on the way.
Joa.
Sure.
Okay, let's go to
I do want to say just one thing. I want to say hi to Simon, but also I do agree with Cyrus in that, like, it depends how American you feel, and I feel like I'm American sometimes, so I've got, like, it kind of bothers me what America does as well because it
Okay, you
impacts
have
me.
defeated his argument even more. Okay, let's go to Simon. Simon, hope you're doing well. How are you? How's things?
Yeah, hey, Ronnie. Joe was spot on with everything that I heard there. If you believe in capitalism, then you don't believe in intellectual property protection, that's preservation of monopolies. You don't believe in, you'd have no problem with people copying your technology. Pure capitalism means anyone comes up with an idea and anyone can implement it and everyone can copy, and the best person wins. Whoever's able to, sell us more product at the most profitable way. If you believe in capitalism, then you believe in globalism. Globalism is you go to the cheapest place in order to produce your goods, and you open it up to as much competition as possible. So, what I think it's just a kind of a brand that in America you are obviously told that we're a capitalist country, and so what they kind of didn't tell you is that the government is bigger and bigger and bigger, but
We
it
we are
doesn't.
a wealth elite socialist country. That's what we are.
What was
But no
socialist
one
for the
wants to admit it.
socialist for the wealthy in order to
Right.
push
Elite
push.
wealth socialists. That's what we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And creating monopolies, protecting intellectual property, ensuring that wealth concentrates upwards, using the government as a piggy bank, ensuring maximum crony capitalism, purchasing politicians, dumping debt on the average American. The bond market has more government intervention than possible. And right now, things are the most successful policy in America is actually the one that looks more like China. So if you look at the price of Intel, the government made an investment in Intel. That's been one of the highest performing investments. And the reason is because the government intervened and said, "Hey, Apple, can you now buy your chips from Intel?" And that intellectual property thing, we'll try and remove a bit of that and actually have real copying of technology from TSMC because we need to make our chips here, and we don't want you to buy them abroad. We don't want you to be capitalists. We want you to, be more. It's a very China policy, and that's working, and that seems that that's what you believe in, which is the opposite of capitalism.
Isn't it funny how America's copying China, Cyrus? Isn't it? When you just accuse them of becoming a superpower because we let them copy us.
I mean, you can't deny that their rise to power was because of us bringing them into the global economic affairs,
Your
and
your
so
rise to
that
massive wealth concentration was because you utilized the sweatshops of China,
yeah, I said
and
that
you
too. It made
trade
so many
and you
millionaires and billionaires. I said that before you came, Simon. I know that. I know
yeah, but
all the corrupt.
Simon, Simon, you
China.
gotta let him finish. You
China
gotta let him.
just China just had a superior product, which was cheap labor, and your companies wanted to take advantage of that. But that wasn't something you let China do. That was a global World Trade Organization agreement that decided that in order to concentrate wealth upwards, we'll screw the Americans and we'll get the cheap labor. And China just produced a superior product. It's not let. That's just a very loaded way of saying it. It was
Yeah,
just
it's
that.
just like It's like Ireland, Simon, right? Ireland was the poorest country in the EU, right? And they became one of the wealthiest. Why? Because they were smart. They started to educate their people around doing scientific tests on drugs, and they became the drug testing capital of the world. And that way, they became extremely wealthy. They concentrated on a specific industry, which is what a lot of countries do to compete on the global stage. And that's all that China did. America did not allow China to do anything. They
I
took a
mean, I
stance,
agree
they
with
focused
Cyrus
on it, and
here.
that's what they did.
I agree with Cyrus here. I think there is a number of things that America did. You can either say allow, or you could say incompetence, or whatever it is. But Chinese, what they did um, over a large period of time is infiltrate into Western society, largely speaking, the United States of America, basically put their people into these universities, marry billionaires. And if you look at a lot of these rich, wealthy oligarchs, they have like Chinese. It's like always consistent. Like there's always a Chinese person. Um, and they were basically all of them. And I don't think all of them. It's because I don't think for all of them it's because they couldn't get like white women, right? I think there was a lot of infiltration there, and they were able to steal a lot of American secrets, whether it's technology or whatever, and then go back and essentially copy that. Now, obviously, over time, what happened was they developed it, and America kind of receded, and they've obviously gotten a lot more better. But initially, those were huge errors that the West made, where they allowed so much Chinese progression to occur without basically putting the requisite barriers. That would be one example of them either letting or incompetence or infiltration, whichever way you look at it, because like someone got paid off or whatever. But definitely that happened, right?
I don't think it was for any of those reasons. It was because the companies
Mm.
decided that they wanted to build their factories in China because they're cheaper and take advantage of cheap labor. And China set rules, which is okay, Apple, you can manufacture your phones here, but if you're going to manufacture your phones here, then we would like to employ our staff, and we would like to then be able to use what we learn from providing the cheap labor, and implement our own factories and start. And then they started creating their own stuff because they believe in capitalism. So they said copying is completely acceptable. There's no protection of intellectual property, no trademarks, no copyright. It's a pure free market from that sense. And so the companies in America decided to be anti-American and said, well, we'd rather maximize profits, which is capitalism, and therefore we're happy to take advantage of the cost saving of doing that in China. And that happened not because China infiltrated, it's because the companies lobbied in order to try and allow China to join the World Trade Organization so that there was free trade, and companies could build their factories in China and take advantage of the cheap labor.
That's not right, Simon. So that did happen in terms of what you said. But even before that, so before they basically even moved their factories to China, China was already infiltrating. Immediately after the China Russia split, you had them basically reverse engineer basically Western technology, the military equipment, the industrial equipment. It's not like America was producing military equipment in Chinese factories. They reverse engineered all of that, copied their designs, stole them. Some of it. So I'm not denying what you're saying. You're right.
It's,
Some
it's,
that did
it's
happen.
loaded words. It's because China had a more capitalist system, so you don't protect design in capitalism. It's only when you have
No.
governmental controls, i.e.,
So
you try
can you
and.
explain how stealing military equipment is something? So can you explain how you steal military equipment when it's not done through espionage?
Okay, so well,
It's really
explain
espionage too.
stealing military equipment. What specifically
Okay,
happened?
so how you would do it as example? So it would be like, for example, just just like the way the Israelis did it. So you would infiltrate. You would have Chinese spies infiltrate into certain areas, whether it's through the universities or generally speaking, it'll be through like these Pentagon contracts or whatever it is, and then copy those contracts or copy the information and then take it back to the United States of America. I mean, sorry, take it back to China. So
But
they were
China's
doing
never
that
been
well
caught
before.
Yeah.
doing
So
that.
So
Israel
what
has.
actually happened here? You like people have to understand the global contract that happened. The global contract was that America gets the world's capital by having world reserve currency, and everybody lends their money back to the US government. So the US government has the largest budget, and then that budget is then invested into US companies. So all of this innovation was created by Pentagon, and then they had private public partnerships where they handed over the technology that the government created for killing. And then they allowed companies like Tesla, like SpaceX, like Apple, and all these companies to have the government technology. But the social, effectively the contract was that. What was I saying? I've forgotten where I was going. But yeah, so America had the largest budget, took on the largest debt, and therefore you know that was the social contract, and then China would weaken its currency by having all of the cheap labor, and in that trade agreements together, you're going to have knowledge that spills over, and China, as culturally, believes in the capitalist principle of allowing anyone to copy anything without any kind of monopoly.
So that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that from a very early time, especially, and they didn't just do it with the United States of America. So this wasn't just a direct on the United States of America. They stole from the Soviet Union as well. And stealing is, unless you don't believe that, like when, which is definitely the case, like military equipment isn't that it's on the open market. Like a lot of this is done under secret. It's top secret information. It's not allowed out. They would infiltrate and steal it. We've got many examples. As for example, recently Mark, and that was in the 2007s. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying immediately from the 60s, 70s, well before China became as advanced as it became, they were stealing a technology. It's well known that they stole a number of what was it again? Blueprints of the F-35s, and various other different
But wasn't that
military
sold to them by
technological equipment.
Israel,
Sorry?
Suleiman? Wasn't that sold to them by Israel?
The specifics about the F-35.
Yeah, and the boats and the aircraft carrier was all sold to them by Israel.
Yes, I'm sure governments like
I
I'm
don't know
sure they.
specifically about that one. I think some was, but I think specifically the F-35 Lightning, that was Chinese espionage. And so what China did was, and this is actually something that I've always been critical of the West about, is the um, lack of stopping espionage into the country, and Chinese espionage definitely happened. And I'm trying to say, I agree with you, Sam, and I'm not trying to reject what you're saying. I know for a fact that what they did was when these factories were built in China, they definitely reverse engineered those, right? And stole that as well. But and that is copying someone. It's like me going to your house.
But
At the same
that's
time,
capitalism. That is capital. In capitalism, you don't allow for stopping copying. It's part of a capitalist market that whoever can do it the best is allowed to do it, and the more people that do it, the better, because then that gets your product cheaper.
yeah, yeah, but the difference is that there's capitalism, but then there's basically foreign, like capitalism's within your country, right? It's not like you believe in capitalism for all, because, for example, if some in like for example some farmer in India who come up with the better product, it's not like he's gonna be able to sell that product for the for the same level, or will be able to get it in the same opportunities as someone from the United States of America. This kind of capitalist system that you have in the United States of America is solely insular within the United States of America. But that being said, when I say stealing, what I mean is, so let me be more specific. So when they stole military or defense equipment, defense secrets or various other secrets, that was theft. That was espionage. When they took is probably the right word to say. When they took the information that they were basically from the United States of America in terms of factory, that was like a second layer. So there's like multi-layered what the Chinese did, and so I guess I was just trying to back up Cyrus's point, because I think his original point was is that Chinese development definitely relied on the United States of America, and both of those are reliance. One is through theft, and the second is through copying or whatever you want to call it. But each one
But
relies on the United
Solomon,
States of America,
it happened the
and it
other
can be on
way.
U.S. incompetence, it could be on U.S. whatever. But I don't. I mean, the first one, I think some of it is incompetence, and some of it is just probably some people are probably paid off as well. So there's probably a multitude of both.
But Solomon, even
Mm.
the self-driving Tesla, right,
Yeah,
was the first one in America that stole Vision AI from Baidu. Baidu was the first company to have Vision AI back in 2007. Okay, Tesla took that and used that. Right.
yeah, I believe that.
This
I know
happens
that.
all the time. iPhone with their new chip, they're using Chinese technology to build that new
I
silicon
agree.
chip.
It's switching
Right.
over the other way around now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's always been back and forths like that.
Oh no, I don't agree that like you may be able to find some instances, but it's kind of like because you're not talking about individual instances. We're talking about the overarching, right? So overarchingly, China stole American military equipment, military technology, and if to use the
Hmm.
correct terminology for Simon, took or copied the stuff that was in the factories, but even in both scenarios, rely on American innovation to do so. And then I completely agree with you. I think if you were to look at it recently, it shifted the other way. And I will say it's going to probably be even more so. I think after this Iran war, when you're seeing the complete failures of the American military technology, because, and why that's important, you might think, oh, well, Suleiman, why are you talking about military technology? Well, everybody knows that the best tech generally is used in military warfare, is used in military tech, and then we get kind of that many years later, whatever that is. So like as an example, we always say as a joke, like they're probably on like 10G when it comes to the military, and we've got like 5G or 6G or whatever. So um so when you
And
look at the
that's the
complete,
irony of it, Solomon.
yeah,
All of that so-called capitalist technology, it was all created by government. Everything that America thinks was created by a capitalist was actually created by government.
that's true. That is so true. And actually not largely done within capitalism, right? I guess unless you think of universities as that, because like it's like these higher learning institutes, it's like these researchers, it's like these, as you said, under the military, and all of these are under military industrial complex because they'll be given grants to universities where all of these things would be top secret, right? And so totally, completely agree with you. I don't even think that's capitalism. So yeah, I agree with you on that. But yeah,
All that happened, the difference is that
mm-mm,
America, the government paid the bill, handed it over to the American people, and then gave it to the companies so that they could monetize it. And then those companies were all private. So it was, although we talk
100%.
about China's theft, it was actually the theft by large multinational corporations from the
True.
bill that the American people paid. So it happened
100%.
internally as well.
Or more so, because like China, when it steals, right, it's like China's stealing for their own interests with this understanding that they need it at the moment because they were so far behind in order to bridge the gap to get to the point where they don't need to, which is what's basically happened. And now they accelerated. And I think there's no doubt in anybody's mind if you're a rational actor, and I'm not someone who's pro China or like, you know what I mean, that China has just become so far advanced in these things, it's become unbelievable. And you can either live in kind of ignorance or like close your eyes to the situation, but you'll never improve. You need to actually deploy the China model yourself, and that is maybe through espionage, get some of the information, but also try and advance. And this is the problem. And you won't have that because, as you said, the aim of the American system now, which is the kind of the top of the pyramid of the Western system, is to steal as much money from the American people as much as possible. And it's not really about any of it. This is what I've said in many of the interviews. It's not really no longer about innovation. It's not about that. Silicon Valley is just there to basically, once again, enrich the oligarchs and enrich their own little group of people and do favors for each other and these type of things. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I would just coming back to the point of what the original point was is that I was just trying to steel man and actually agree with Simon in one Cyrus in one aspect, which is that I do believe that these were failures by the Americans because you can't, you shouldn't allow that level of espionage to happen. Like, for example, if you remember, like 10 years ago, do you remember this, Simon? But 15 years ago, I think it was. I can't remember now how long ago it was. Very long time ago. China was given like $100 million contract to take over a UK's entire nuclear infrastructure, and I was like, the dome, like you're basically handing over your nuclear capability to a foreign nation, and obviously they wised up and then went against it. But this was the level of that China was basically getting into all these countries and basically essentially having control of these countries. And I think there's been a lot of incompetence by either incompetence or a lack of awareness by the West, and so China just advances so much. But yeah.
Simon
Yeah.
made an important point regarding American corporations doing that, and going back to my points earlier in the debate, so-called debate, I mentioned that we should have had safeguards, right? So this doesn't happen. It doesn't make me capitalist or socialist. I'm for controlled capitalism that is measured, so our vital industries like pharmaceutical and our defense industry is guarded, right? And by the way, the only countries that has been able to infiltrate the U.S. Defense industrial sector has been Israel, and that's by way of Jewish American citizens that get compromised by, or rather get swayed by the Mossad to conduct
Yeah,
espionage.
bro. I thought Shmuli was gonna bring that up in the debate. I was ready to smash him on
And
that as
so,
well.
and
Debate.
Jonathan Pollard is a good example of that,
Yeah,
Suleiman.
Jonathan Pollard is
He
probably.
flew back onto Adelson's plane. Adelson gave $150 million to Trump, essentially to pardon him. They bought his pardon. It's so shameless and disgusting. This is a true slap in the face to the American Constitution and what we stand for. I mean, we have way bigger problems in America. Like, we are a zombie superpower. Like, we are not in control of our emotions in many areas, not all areas, but some key areas. We are not in control of what we're doing, and this is one example of it. I mean, we have pervasive espionage. The CIA knows about it. The gentleman, John Carrick, I hope you interview him one day. He's phenomenal, and
I'm
he's the
trying to
whistle.
get him. It's, you know what it is. As soon as I get their contact, they all agree. It's just getting people's contacts is hard. But sorry,
I
you
know
go.
it. Especially these days, the independent media is so hot, which is a good thing. It's good that these people are in demand. That's a very good sign, despite that we don't get to have the pleasure of hearing you have an awesome interview, and you do better than most of these people. Pretty much everybody I hear. I've been watching you from way before I got on X, so he's very clutch. He like, as in, he has inside knowledge. He was a whistleblower. He's a true American. When you're in the inside with a, you know, a polygraph, secret clearance, and then you stand up for when the U.S. breaks constitutional law. That is a hero. Same with Snowden. These are constitutional heroes. They're willing to martyr their careers and their lives. To get the truth out. So we have a big problem. The CIA knows that Israel is heavily spying on our defense industrial sector, and they buy our weapons, right? So it's not for their use. They're not going to build it. They sell it to China. So my whole point earlier, Suleiman, I didn't approach it like a debate. I was just kind of pointing out how the power structure is balancing out and how it's shifting east, and how China's become this very powerful creature because of this globalism that was unchecked. So I'm against the unchecked growth of money, especially when it's concentrated, to Simon's point. So we actually agree on a lot more than you guys may give me credit for. So the overarching picture is the same. We have a very corrupt system, and it's an oligopoly. That's why I'm for antitrust laws. We need to break the oligopolies. I mean, this is from the tech to the media. I mean, censorship will flow through these, the concentration of tech, right, and these platforms. So I hope the Supreme Court will push back. There's already mounting evidence of shadow banning. These are unconstitutional, by the way. So we throw these words around lightly. In the UK, you don't have the same safeguards as us, right? So it's a big deal here. What happened in that train? That is appalling. In Florida, they try to pass legislation similar against anti-Israeli speech, and this lady said something very mild too, very benign statement, and the sheriff came to her door just asking about it. And there was a lot of I think it was the first incident in the United States, and there was a lot of backlash, and it hasn't happened again since. But folks like Randy Fine, they're pushing for legislation like this to silence speech, specifically with respect to Israel. So there's so many things that are happening at the same time. But it all comes down to nefarious forces, and it's not about, it's the Jews and the religion. It's not that. It's a few evil organizations that it happens to be, many of them led by these ethno supremacist Jewish folks, and that don't even care about their own people, let alone the regular folks. So it's really sad, but hopefully we're breaking free from those shackles, and it'll be a marathon. It's not going to happen overnight.
Jordan, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, hey.
I don't know how we just went from espionage to Jewish
Yeah,
anti-Semitic laws in Florida, but let me just stick back to the espionage. There are laws about espionage, right? So we don't need new laws. There are all laws for that. When it comes to corporate stuff, as someone who owned a fairly large creative innovation company that would help companies like come up with new products and new campaigns, my employees would always ask, oh, oh, that's a copy or this is a copy. And I've always said, look, everything's a copy, right? The gas engine is a copy of the steam engine. The TV is a copy of radio. Like everything's a copy. It's ridiculous. And I always told employees, as long as you make it better, copy all you want. Just make it better, right?
it's like
Um,
reiterations of different things that have come
yeah,
before yours.
and that's what
Exactly.
happens. And that's all China did. But it gets painted as this boogey's man that they stole the technology. Yes, they copied military technology just like America copies the military technology, just like every country in the world copies military technology. That's why America wanted to go save that Russian sub that Russia's like, no way, no way, no how are you coming to save these men on the sub, because then you're going to copy our technology. We do it all the time. I mean, literally, we have a disclosure now saying that we're copying alien technology. So that's what we do. That's what countries do. That's what they're supposed to do. But there are laws against it. But when companies do it, guess what? We do it to ourselves. We do it between companies in America. We do it with companies outside of America. That's just human nature. There is reiterations of things. And the way you progress is you make it better. And guess what? China, for 30 years now, has been taking American technology and making it better, to the point now where America's starting to copy Chinese technology.
Yeah, if I can just chime in, I think we throw around the word espionage so easily because I think it's a sexy thing that people like to hear. But actually, a lot of times it's more of people leaving one company, taking the knowledge that they gained from that company, and actually implementing it somewhere else. Really, that's a lot of times that's what happens, and I know this from personal experience, having worked in corporate security or designing insider threat programs for large multinational companies. So a lot of times what we see is people before they get up to leave to a new company, they end up downloading a whole bunch of, IP, a whole bunch of different technologies or research that they're working on inside this company to take it on to their next company. Of course, anytime you join a company, you sign NDAs that says you cannot do that. But guess what? That's actually the primary way where data and information and proprietary information and designs and things like that gets taken out. But Suleiman, if I can go back to your earlier point, I think one thing that Americans always forget is, the history behind things, right? So how did China, the ancient state of China, come to dominance again to re-emerge after the communist implementation? Well, it happened because the Chinese were blocked out of the global economy, and they were aligned with the Soviet Union a lot. So what ended up happening is in the 1970s, I think under Nixon, or I think it was Nixon, they basically did a strategic move to split China from the Soviet Union so that they can open up the Chinese economy to the American economy and to move those things closer together. But the other thing that ended up happening at the same time was the American business lobbies also promoting that we should be using the Chinese labor and training the Chinese workers to help build the industrial complex in China. So, yes, China did not actually steal American manufacturing. It was actually given to them voluntarily. And then over time, as those employees migrated from one company to another, other Chinese capabilities emerged. And therefore, we have the current, competition between China and America. And I think that history, that context is quite important, right? So as people progress, as companies progress, and they interact with each other, they learn, they take technology, they reiterate it, and then come up with quote unquote um, new replicas with minor improvements. Thanks.
Yeah, and what I'd add to that as well is it's impossible to separate innovation and world reserve currency. So if you look at effectively the fundamentals of capitalism, if you look at say like the Dark Ages and the Golden Age of Islam, there was like the all of the free trade and all of the hard money, all of the economic thoughts that came from that era. But then we had like the Adam Smith version of capitalism, which replaced the golden, like the invisible hand, which used to be God, with the market. And then you had the removal of all the ethics, which led to the version of capitalism, which was effectively used by the central banks. But when the Dutch created all the constructs of the stock market, the bond market, the Dutch East India Company, and the Central Bank of Amsterdam, uh, that became how the ships were innovated. And because it had its currency backed by gold and it was the Dutch guilder, became the world reserve currency, all the innovation happened in the Dutch Empire. The Dutch then started to outsource some of that labor to the cheap labor, which was the Brits, and the Brits copied everything. And so they created the Bank of England, they created the British East India Company, and they decided to utilize what they learned from the Dutch in order to build the largest naval fleet in the world. And they were the cheap labor, and then they became the innovators because people needed to buy those ships with the pound. The pound was backed by gold, and then the Great British Pound was backed by the colonies, and it just went and stole everyone's resources, created all the free trade agreements, and forced everyone to lend their money back to the Brits, and made sure that nobody could utilize their resources, and built out the British Empire. And and then there was obviously the bankruptcy of the government because the British East India Company and the Bank of England bankrupted the government because everything goes up to the large corporate interests. And then effectively the same happens in America. So the deal with America, why all the innovation happened in America, was because the government was able to take on the largest budget. They were then able to innovate all the technology through Pentagon budgets. And then they did the private public partnership where they gave all the companies, they manufactured these companies and gave them the intellectual property, and then built out the whole innovation sector. But because the currency was strengthening relative to all others, everybody had to lend their money back to the US government, and America just created wars all around the world to force people to adopt the dollar, borrow in the dollar, and lend back to the US government. And so all the innovation came from the fact that you had world reserve currency. Now, what's quite remarkable about where we are right now is that China did it without world reserve currency, and we haven't seen that one for a long time, and so that brings us into a new era.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, Simon. Good, that girl. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, actually, but just give me 1 second. Hold on.
That's the best point you've ever made.
Yeah, I do. Come back to me in 1 minute. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, I'm wrapping up, so you can maybe jump in tomorrow. So, guys, slightly shorter space today. Your boy's knocked out. I'm telling you straight, super knocked out. So we're gonna oh crap.
I'm back. I'm back. You don't have to close the space. I'm back.
Alright, you got 30 seconds. Go.
Hey,
No.
girl.
Oh my God, but you only had the space open for 5 minutes. Like I looked up, it was open, and now you're ready to close it. I appreciate this conversation that was happening and looking at China and their, yes, espionage. I think that that's a good word for it. Doesn't mean that we hate China or whatever. I think all countries, engage in whatever they need to engage in to make their countries better. I'm also not opposed to the fact that we were taxed for innovation and building weapons and stuff like that. I know how that sounds. Earlier, earlier in the 20th century, because yeah, you need defenses and things like that. It's just a shame what it's turned into, especially with Zionism controlling the country. But That's pretty much all I had to say. So thank you. I'm sorry because I ran in here, but thank you. This was a good. It was a good conversation and a good debate.
Awesome. So guys, if someone can put the just let you know, we're wrapping up the space, but we're going to be back tomorrow. I'll be back a little bit later tomorrow as well. It's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Unfortunately, I told you the reason why I'm in London and I have to try and do these meetings to try and get things sorted outside of spaces, because obviously it's tough to basically have a livelihood on spaces, unfortunately. So that's why the spaces are a bit shorter over the this weekend. So that being said, guys, much love to each and every single one of you. Really appreciate you joining in. We will be back tomorrow. Yeah, so I really do appreciate everything. So we'll be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. We've got, like I said, we've got a huge lineup of interviews. So watch out for them. It's going to be awesome. But we are wrapping up here. So appreciate you guys. Oh wait, let me put the link in the YouTube. So just about to put it in now. There you go. So you guys, YouTube guys have got the link. X guys have got the link. Come across that. I'll be chatting there for a bit. It's a very short interview with Ian Proud, British diplomat. Check it out. Much love to every single one of you. Appreciate you guys joining in. Appreciate you guys.